Walk me through how you found out about the program.
So we were given a sort of flyer that had been sent home by the guidance counselors at the school. It was very interesting to us because we had been dealing with some pretty serious problems with his technology use and his what we decided was actually an addiction to technology that neither of us, my husband and I, were really sure was actually a thing because we thought it was just simple to turn it off. And we found that was not the case. And so when this advertisement came to us from the school, it was very interesting for us because we thought part of the problem that we don't yet know how to handle. The things that we had tried to do, which were basically just taking things away from him, limiting, if not completely restricting access to his various devices. We had been doing that for months and it really wasn't helping. It just became this constant game of how can I get around the rules and the parameters that had been put in place so he could still access those things, even though we were trying to restrict them from him. And one of the things that was really intriguing to us about the program, the impression as being a program that was going to be more about giving him the skills that he needs to exist in a world and a culture where technology is not going to go away. That's one of the things that we had really struggled with him with this sort of addiction component because it seemed to be more of something that was akin to a food addiction as opposed to like alcohol or drugs or things that you can completely cut out of your life and just say, okay, we're just not going to have this at all. But with the technology, just as a food, like we have to have food to survive. And in our modern society, we have to have technology if we're going to be part of society. And even when we were limiting the things at home that we could limit, he would still have access to it at school and would still have to use it for school. So we were just really in a tailspin trying to figure how to limit it and help him grow to have a better relationship with it when taking it away wasn't an option. So we were really in a situation where we were like, we'll try anything. What this looks like something good, we'll try this out. And so that's when we contacted y'all. And then we had that introductory conversation about whether or not he was going to fit into the program.
What was your expectations going into the program?
Based on the experiences we had with him so far, I was not expecting a silver bullet. I was really looking more for just resources and just some guidance and some help. How can we do this? How can we deal with this? I really liked that it seemed like there'd been a lot of preparation and research that had gone into the way that the program was structured with tying the kids to some other kids that were also struggling with those same problems. And then the way that you had it structured so that he was dealing with the issues, but then also giving them a chance to do the things they like to do and work through some things that way. I thought that was a really interesting way. Like I've learned so far with my older child and then with who's 12, you can only sit there and talk to them for so long. That's not effective. Lecturing them is not going to make the situation any better. We had tried that for at that point months, years. And so we knew we've got to have a different approach to this. And we went into it very open-minded. Just we felt like it was a good thing to try. We thought that it seemed like the concept was really interesting. And it seemed like y'all had put a lot of thought and research into how to approach it and how to most effectively interact with these kids in a way that would actually be beneficial to them in the rest of their lives. And so we went into it hopeful. I'm not expecting 100% just because we were trying to be realistic.
What have you noticed throughout the program and the end of the program? Have you noticed anything? Have you noticed any changes?
I will say that one of the main things that I've noticed is that he's a little more grounded. He's a little more in touch with reality, which I think is something that the program really addresses is trying to focus on not having your entire life being consumed and lived online. How that's something that we can do. It's a part of life. It can be something fun. It's okay, but it doesn't need to be the only way that we exist in our society. And so I have noticed that he is much more aware, or at least vocal, about his contact with like reality. So that's been very refreshing. Before I think all he ever wanted to do was play video games. And since he has come back, and yeah, he still wants to do that. And we still do let him do that, but he's finding other things to spend time doing. Some of that are some things that he used to do when he was younger. And he's re-engaged in some of that. And so that's been really encouraging, just that he has started to reignite some interest that he had previously, but that had become really pushed to the side because the focus was solely on playing the games, talking about the games, watching YouTube videos about the games if he wasn't playing the games. The focus was very limited to those few things. And so I feel like he's more well-rounded now. He's expanded his horizons for the things that he's interested in, the things he wants to spend time doing. So that has been really helpful just to have other ways to interact with him and other things to talk to him about because we always tried to engage with him when it came to knowing video games he was playing. And we were very thankful that we never really had an issue with the content of the games that he was playing. It wasn't that he was trying to play things that we were objecting to on grounds of subject matter or anything like that. It was just the amount of time it was consuming and the role it was playing in his life. And so we would try to engage with him even when he was so consumed with it. But there are just only so many conversations you can have about Minecraft or whatever. There's just, even when you're trying really hard, there's a limit to how many conversations you can have about that. So now he is much more open. We are not the perfect family now or anything like that, but we didn't expect to be. But it has, I feel like it's given us and him some more tools with just relating to each other and being able to interact in a more positive way.
One of the things that you started with your husband halfway through the program was this parent guidance.
We were just continuing to look for resources. Just what else can we do? He's doing this program. And like you said, at that point, he'd been in it for a couple of weeks. And so we didn't really know what the end result was going to be. And so when you mentioned that was another option, we were like, absolutely, yes, we will try almost anything to try to help him out and guide ourselves and give ourselves some more resources. And so we were very open to just, sure, it's another tool in the toolbox. We'll absolutely try it. And we've had a really great experience. I think one of the things that has been really helpful, Christian's been very open about his own experiences with technology and how that has impacted his life over time. Seeing that he's had those experiences and has come out on the other end and is now able to help other people as a result. And he's done all this research, he's learned all these things. We feel like it's a really good resource because we feel like we have somebody to come to and say, we don't know what to do with the situation. One of the things that we talked about a little bit with him is that Justin and I, the ages that we are, he was born in 1979, I was born in 1981. And so throughout our lives, we have gone from Ataris to a computer that we have in our pocket all the time. And I think that there's been a lot of excitement about that throughout the years, and it's been great for so many reasons. But there have been all these societal and familial drawbacks and things that have happened, consequences to that nobody was, I think, prepared for and nobody knew how to handle. And so now we're all playing catch up. It's like, how do we fix these things that we have seen that have become problems? How can we prevent that from happening we have one child that's younger than him, and just society in general? How can we help? Because this is not a situation that's going to go away. So how do we manage it? How can we just not have the relationships within our family and with other people be so negatively impacted by this thing that can be so good? And just how do we, and I think one of the things that Christians really help Justin and I do is just examine our own relationships that we have with technology. And I think that most people, if they haven't made a concerted effort to have a healthy relationship with technology, have some unhealthy habits. Just as we grew up being attached to it, nobody ever really said, hey, like when you grow up, you're taught, okay, you can't have dessert every day for every meal because that will make you sick. Nobody really tells us that. It compounded in such a way that before we knew it, you're drunk on the technology and you don't know how to get out of it. And so having an opportunity to have somebody that has done so much work in his own life and helped other people re-examine that relationship and put those boundaries in place, I think has been very effective for us. But I think that's very effective as parents to be able to model that to our kids. And one of the things we've been very open about, these are the things that we are doing because we've realized we have some unhealthy relationships here. These are the sort of boundaries we're implementing in our own lives. So this is not something that only you are dealing with. This is not something that only our family is dealing with. This is a societal problem. And we're just trying to be intentional in dealing with it rather than just letting it continue to take over all of our lives the way that it definitely had. That's the point that it had gotten to for sure.
It sounds like really one of the key aspect of this is that you were able to, so this was happening in parallel to the fellowship, and then you were doing the guidance, parent guidance with parent guides with you and as well as your husband. And it sounds through that process, you were able to examine your own, be reflective about your own as well as your husband's, in turn, shape the narrative around technology when it comes to your son who was in the program.
I think just understanding the level to which people can become embedded in their sort of online life and just in their life with technology. I think that one of the things you're always going to have differences, generational differences that you're going to see between parents and children. That's always going to be the case. But I think one of the things that's happening right now that we have seen anyway is that for us, even though we've had what we consider to be slightly unhealthy relationships with technology, neither of us have been in a situation where it was really consuming our lives. But I think with us being able to step back and look at the way that it was impacting our lives, it helped us to better understand where he's coming from and why it is that he had gotten so mired in all of it and how it had become such an important part of his life. And so we were able to approach it in a more team effort. Like, we're all going to work together in this situation, not just this, we're disciplining you. This is a problem you have. We need to fix you. And I think that has really helped just our relationship in general, because I think that can apply to other areas of life also. And reframing the way that we deal with that, not so much in, oh, we're his buddy, we're his friend. It's still very much, we're the parent, we're guiding this situation. But it's taken some of the combativeness out of it for us to be able to reframe it and say, look, this is a situation that we're all dealing with in various levels and degrees. We don't all have the same problems with it. These are the things that we are doing because we've seen these problems in our lives, so how can we help you? So it makes it less of an adversarial situation and more of, how can we work together? How can this be something that as a family we are aware of and working on, and not just something we're constantly fussing at him about? Because it definitely had gotten to that point that it was just, we were having very few interactions with him that were not completely negative. And nobody wants that to be the relationship you have with your kid. It has been very helpful in that for us.
What are your what were your skepticism?
It does seem, we've noticed recently that there seems to be, whether you're looking on Facebook or just watching TV, there seems to be some type of tech fix for everything. And so there was part of me that it was, this is just one more thing that we're going to do. One more, is it a gimmick? Just, is this for real? Or is this just one more way for parents to shell out money because they're trying to fix their kids? And so I think that one of the things that's been very helpful is that, I think especially with us being a part of it at the beginning, you and Christian have been very open about, we're still figuring this stuff out. And there's been like a really open dialogue. I think that's been very helpful because y'all have approached it in a way that has not made us feel like we're morons. It felt like a situation where you knew more about the situation than we did, and you were people that we could come to. But it was more of a, we're going to assist you, we're going to guide you, not, you're doing this wrong, we're going to fix it. And I think that's been the way that's been very helpful, because as a parent, you're constantly told that everything you're doing is wrong. Or you feel that way. Even if you're not told that, you constantly feel like, I'm screwing up this kid. I don't know what I'm doing. And that was a concern that I had, was that we didn't know who you people were. And I was like, are we going to get in here with a bunch of child psychologists that are just telling us that we've done all these things wrong and we've ruined him and he's broken? So we were very relieved that has not been the case. So that's been great. But I could see how that could be a concern, just because parents are, especially if if it's not your first kid, it's your second or third or whatever, you have become very used to that feeling of inferiority and just, of course I'm doing it wrong because I'm doing everything else wrong. I'm screwing this up too. So there was a little bit of that on my end, because I was like, I don't need somebody else preaching at me and telling me all the things I've screwed up. And so the fact that's never been the feeling that we have gotten, it's been a huge relief, very helpful, and a huge relief.